And in these stories of darkness, there's always stories of light. And you talk about a certain young girl that's tattooed on her wrist, Baby A, in memory. Can you tell us about that?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, by the way, there's a lot of stories of light that came to me through this, but through doing this story, and that's why I'm still here as well. And including, by the way, Detective Jim Wood, who is just my soulmate and brother forever. But yeah, I mean, we got, as I said, we got all these, we got mail from all kinds of places, and then just one day on Instagram, I was tagged by a girl, and she had tattooed onto her wrist A. And she said, because she never wanted to forget baby boy A, and that she wanted to always remember him and think about him, so that he wouldn't be alone, that she would always remember him. And, she tattooed herself. I thought when you were saying that introduction to that question, I thought you were actually another amazing story, which I think I would like to tell now, because it is a story of light, is during the grand jury. So a lot of witnesses came in during the grand jury phase of this investigation, which went on for nearly a year. So you had all these regular folk who attended that the grand jury, and who heard the worst things you've ever heard in your life. You can imagine, day after day after day, weeks, months passed, and they heard this stuff. And then one day there was a witness, and I think it was Christine Wexler who questioned her and said, so you were having an abortion in this place. So what happened? And she said, well, I was very pregnant, and it was a 3-day procedure. She went in, he put in the things to make her dilate the first day. And for some reason, she started to kind of become really conscious of the fact that she was very pregnant. And she said, what happens to the babies afterwards? And he said, oh, we burn them. So she went home that night. That was the way it was done. She would go home that night, come back the next day for more of the cytotech. She went home, talked to her cousin, and became very disturbed by the whole thing. And Christine Wexler said to her, well, what happened? And she said, don't you know, my baby started kindergarten today. And the grand jury, for the first time in anyone's memory, stood up and applauded, because it was the first good thing that they'd heard. And I always call that story the one that got away, because she just changed her mind. She went to the hospital. They were able to reverse what had started, and she gave birth to a perfect baby who is now in school. And another really weird thing that happened, the woman that we had playing that role in the movie, she kind of, it's kind of a long story, but basically the director had found her in an IHOP, and he had found her in this IHOP, and she was just a regular person. She was just a waitress. And he said, look, I'd love you to be in this movie. And she was in the movie, a couple of days. And the second day she was there, I had got kind of pally with her. I was chatting to her. And the second day she came to act, she was doing the scene in the grand jury, and she was playing the role of that girl who changed her mind. And she came up to me before the thing started and said, oh my God, this is my story. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I was having an abortion in Houston, and the nurse came in and said to me, hey, listen, I've got to go and do something out the back, but I'll come back. But listen, in the meantime, why don't you listen to your baby's heartbeat? And she listened, and she was like, so she got to put her clothes on, and she just got out there and got into the car with her grandfather. And she said to me, and I interviewed her, and she told the story. We have it. I mean, it's up on YouTube. And she said, I can't believe that I was going to destroy a whole generation of me. And she said, at night, I lie awake and I watch him sleep. And I can't believe I could have destroyed something so perfect. And it was...
Anne, thank you so much for that. But there was a few cases where somebody in Gosnell's clinic tried to change their mind, but he didn't let them out.
That's correct. That is correct. That happened a lot. And he would indicate also, for example, in the case of Carnamaya Monger. Now, I don't know if Carnamaya Monger had changed her mind, but she started to put up a fuss when she was there. And they phoned, the people who were working there phoned Gosnell. He wasn't even there at the time. And he said, mad her up. So they knocked her out. So she had lost all ability. And we know that young people went there, dragged there by relatives who were forcing them to have an abortion. And that's obviously illegal. And they would say, I don't want to be here. And he'd say, it's too late. I've already given you something. The baby's dead.
Because he liked to kill, and also the money. The money. It's combination, money, and they like to kill. And may I ask you, it's difficult not to see a spiritual war here. May I ask you a little bit about your faith, or how you kind of got through this, and what your perspective is spiritually on this matter?
Yeah, well, I would say I was in a bit of a spiritual desert before this started. I would, I was brought up Catholic, but I wouldn't have been the best Catholic ever. And I have to say that when I was writing the book, I particularly remember one particular moment. I've written about it and I've spoken about it many times. And I was in Southern California with a beautiful blue sky, and I'm married to a fabulous man, and my life is fabulous, and in every kind of possible way. And I'm dealing with this, going through this evidence. And I had all of the pictures of what they discovered in the clinic and the pictures of the babies that they had brought to the medical examiner's office. And I became overcome with a sense of evil, with the evil of what I was dealing with. And I became like frightened, like sitting middle of the day, beautiful sunshine. I became so frightened, and I didn't know what to do. And I knelt down beside the computer and started praying. And I really haven't stopped since, because I think evil quite often for people, and maybe it's a good thing, is theoretical. But when it's real, and when you meet it in a real way, it chills you, it's visceral, it affects you physically. And I know that when we worked on this film and this book and all of this thing where we're done, particularly with the movie, I remember everyone got sick, people puked, everyone cried, like people vomited. I mean, I did a narration of the book, and the woman who was recording it, the producer, would say to me, "Can we stop? Can you just stop for a minute? I think I'm going to throw up here." And she was pro-abortion and changed her mind through listening to the book for a week.